friends, welcome to today's video. I'm going to be semi-unboxing. I've already unboxed it and you can see I've already made a bit of a mess of the box. My Hobonichi 5-year journal. Now, this is the A6 5-year journal from Hobonichi. It comes in this really beautiful little yellow box, but you can see I got some paint on it. Then I thought I would try and fix it, so I actually just made it worse. I think I'm going to use this box to keep the journal stored in, but I think I'm going to try and put, like, you know, vinyl stickers or, you know, stickers you get when you put on your suitcase, kind of things like that. I might try and make it some kind of sticker covered box because this just really irritates me. But you can see the journal goes from 2019 to 2023. Who knows where we'll be in 2023, but I'm really excited to start it. So this is the little info booklet that it comes with, all in Japanese. I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but I guess if you really need to know what all of this is, you could take it to an interpreter. It also comes with this little piece of paper that's kind of a test sheet, so you can do all your swatching on here with your mediums and see what inks are going to bleed through, etc, etc, etc. I thought that was a really cute idea, so you don't have to do that in your book. So that was really curious. Here is the journal itself. It is so thick. I mean, look at that thing. I'm going to move this off to the side. Like I said, this was A6 sized, and so it is really, really tiny. There is an A5 version, so I'm not sure if I'm going to regret buying the A6 size. It is a new to me size, so we'll see how it goes. You've got the calendars, all of the years at a glance at the beginning, so you can put your stuff down there, and then you basically just get into it, and it kind of is the same format all the way through. How it's broken down is that every page, in the back you've kind of got some lists, some little info, etc. Remember this in 2023? Imagine I planned something for them now. It's kind of broken down the same way for every single page. So you've got the, see, this is the first, this little character here means month and this means day. So you've got the first month, the first day, January 1st. I did study Japanese in high school, so I know that this is a Friday, this is Saturday, this is a Sunday, but you can find those easily online if you just look for the kanji. I'm sure also if you have another calendar that you're following along, you could just check your phone if you really wanted to know what day of the week it was, because sometimes I do forget. But it is kind of broken down in that, you know, January 1st has this little section off to the side here, and that's for 2019. So you kind of work through this whole book at the top for your first year, and there's a grid page on the right hand side. And then once you get to the end, so you're 365 days in, you flip right back to the start of the book, and then you go do 2020, January 1st. So I think it's a really fun kind of experience because you do get to go and relive that last year as you're reliving the next one. And I'm kind of familiar with tracking a year before. It didn't quite click to me in the beginning, but I have actually documented a full year of my life before in Polaroid pictures. So I have a bunch of journals. Sorry, that's it for the flip. There's nothing in it. So I'm actually filming this late December. I can't crack into it until January. So that's kind of it for the Hobonichi. I'm really, really excited. I'll show you a couple of other things that I had ideas for because, to be honest, I really don't know what I'm going to do with it. I think I'm going to be writing like little memories off to the side. If something significant didn't really happen that day, I might just write a quote or a poem or, I don't know, do some math, who knows, write a shopping list, anything. I think whatever the day is about, I think it's kind of good to log those things that aren't necessarily that important either, because I think it might be a fun contrast to see like, oh, this day last year I was, you know, I sat in bed all day and I didn't do anything, and this year I'm, you know, off to Spain. Like, I'm not going there, but do you know what I mean? Like, it might be fun to contrast it like that, who knows. But I don't know what I'm going to do on these gridded days. I kind of want to do little drawings on there. I cannot put anything in here because you can see how thick this is. I think even it was mentioned to me that even watercoloring on your pages would kind of, you know, crinkle it up and start to make it extra bulky. I mean, it looks bound pretty well, but I think as soon as you start adding stuff to this, it's just going to become way too bulky. So this is purely just for drawing and writing, and even with the drawing, I think I'll be coloring in with you know, either a marker that doesn't bleed through, like a water-based marker, or just some pencils. I would love to be able to do the same format that I've been doing in my Hobonichi. I've been drawing my weeks in the Hobonichi and putting in little sprocket prints, putting in little drawings and stamps, washi tapes, just like fun events that happened. You can see here I drew my Hobonichi the day I got it. Was really excited for it. And yeah, so I just don't think this kind of a format, first of all, I don't think it'll fit in here, but also it's just going to bulk it up a lot. And even in this book, I do have to skip every other page because things bleed through with the alcohol markers. I know I could use something else, like I could use the watercolor like I did here and possibly just go back to back, but to be honest, I think with bulking it up a lot, it is probably going to be best just to skip every other page, then kind of glue them together and just have a much neater, nicer look. I know some people are going to really hate that that's a little bit wasteful, but I'm really happy with it, so I think I'm just gonna have to run with that. I think you've got to do what works for you, and I do have a bunch of these journals, and it really does make me happy to think that it'll be nice and clean for a change, because all my other journals are really hectic and busting at the seams. So this was essentially the trial run that I had for buying the Hobonichi 5-year journal. But unbeknownst to me, I'd actually tried this documentation before. Now, I said I discovered art journaling in 2015. I stand by it. I guess it is kind of the same year that I did document all of this stuff. So it's not too much of a stretch to think that I just found it then. But I guess in essence, I had kind of been like scrapbook art journaling before I kind of even knew what it was. And this was how it started. I have this Polaroid camera, but I also have the Polaroid printer. Hang on, I'll just get it. This is the camera that I first got. It's an Instax mini camera. I called it Instamax for so long. I know so many people make that mistake as well. Totally me too. And I used to get so excited and buy all these little films for it. It's kind of expensive. It works out to be about $1 per Polaroid. So I've actually got hundreds of dollars worth of Polaroids in these books. I still think it was totally worth it, but you know, if you're trying to save money, I really don't think this is the way to go. It was kind of the only thing I was spending my money on that year. Now I have the HB Sprocket, which are stickers, and they're different size. You can also you know, work through the app and kind of get mini prints on those. I have a whole YouTube video on how to get mini prints out of your Sprocket, so check that out if you're curious. I've also kind of discussed DIY photo stickers before on the channel, so if you want to go and have a look at that video, I'll put a link up there as well and a little information icon at the top, just if you want to save money, because some of this stuff can get really expensive, and I don't want you to think that you have to go and buy all this stuff to do it. You really don't. But these are all like decorative framed Polaroids, and I do have a bunch that are just regular as well. I won't flip through the whole thing. This is a very random journal. Like, this is literally just photos. There's nothing else in here. And this dates back to 2014. This is actually when Steve and I went to Hawaii in 2014. So this is quite a while ago. You can see I just kind of documented random events that happened, being with friends, being out at Disneyland. This was Christmas at Disneyland in 2014. So I kind of documented towards the end of 2014, and then I was going into 2015. Oh, I lie. I also had this. This was a little journal that I had through 2014 as well. So this was from when I was on the ship. I must have done it for a lot longer than I thought. Yeah, I really gave it a good go. This is my sister, and this is my sister and me in wigs. I must have done a lot of 2014. And then really kind of amped it up towards the end. I won't show you everything in here because I guess what I needed to get to, look, some of the adhesives come off, is that I was so excited by all of this, I kind of thought, well, what if I did it for a whole year? Thinking I wouldn't really do it, I started with this little journal here, and by the end of it, I was left with all of these. These are full of Polaroids. And this is where I started to get a little experimental with it. This is where I started to kind of, you know, put little ephemera in there and kind of adjust it up a little bit with stickers, and I had such a blast. I'm going to flip through just some of my favorites in here and just chat through a little bit, I guess. If this doesn't interest you, then just turn the video off now. But I'm just going to walk through memory lane and just kind of get myself excited to document the next year by just revisiting one. This was actually a pretty big year in my life. This was when I had that car accident, so it kind of spans through going on to my cruise contract, and then being hit by the taxi, and then being back at home, and the start of the recovery process. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to skip a few things that might be a little too sensitive for me right now, but let's just have a look at some. You can see this book, I mean, she's really trying her best to hold on. These end papers are barely holding on for dear life. I just had to make it as full as I could. Oh, I haven't looked through these in years. I'm actually really excited to flip through them. It makes me so happy to see it busted and all big and stuff. I know it's awful, but it just shows that I had such a great time with it and I used it and it's been loved, and this is such a beautiful memory. Here I was so excited to go on the fantasy. Oh, just before I started, my little nephew was born on the 30th. There he is, little Liji Lou. This is when he came home. I was so excited. I've never kind of been around a newborn before. So I was living a full fantasy, just getting to hold him, and he would fall asleep just on your chest. He had such a little fixation with like just touching your neck or just putting his hand in your shirt. It's so crazy. He's turning 4 in a couple of days. Some of the adhesive really didn't hold up on this. I'm kind of surprised because it was adhesive that was meant for photos. Like, it was archival and acid free. I guess they don't expect you to really check it years later and ask for a refund. I'm just going to try and do some surgery on some of these pages. Here's where I guess I started to collect parts of the day and kind of put them in. So I got this sticker at rehearsals just for being a good monkey. And I decided to put it in my journal. So this is, I think, where that documenting inevitably came into play, but I just had no idea what I was doing at the time. And it gets a bit better in some of the next journals. I mean, I was working with really limited space in here. This photo makes me laugh so much. We were in this rehearsal building. It was the CBC, the Canada Broadcasting Centre or Network or whatever it's called, in Toronto. And they had this little mail cart that was motorized. And so we called her Mobilia Mail Cart Williams. It was like a whole thing. It was so funny. I mean, I feel bad for explaining an inside joke to you, but you just have to get how funny this was. Because this mail cart just had a sign on it that said, "Move it or lose it." And it was just holding all these trays. And this one time I went to the elevator just opened and it was just sitting there staring at me, and then just zoomed out of the elevator. And it just kind of flashes this warning light. It's so funny to me. I think once we kind of personified her, the whole thing just became so hilarious. And she's actually really hard to snap a selfie with. So I was really happy when I got this. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I wasn't actually carrying this around the whole time. I actually have this. I fully brought it over and forgot to show you. This is the Instax Share printer. It's got a little case on it just to keep it. Oh, look, this is coming off again. Oh, what's happening? Lucky I've got this tape runner. This is a little case I have for it to keep it safe. Basically, you could take photos on your phone or your iPod or anything that had Bluetooth, and there's an app, and you could send it to this printer and it would print out on the Polaroid. So that was how I got a lot of just my general daily life photos in this. I didn't have to lug this around the whole day. I would usually just take this to parties or something. I would actually just keep this at home, and whatever photo I took on my camera roll, I would send it to this. I actually didn't have a phone. I had an iPod Touch, but it still worked. If it's got Bluetooth, it'll work. You can get the app. So I do think they still do these. I think they look a bit different. The quality is still a Polaroid. So I don't want you to think that just because you have this, you're suddenly going to get like super crisp and clear and, really super vibrant photos. It's still going to print like a Polaroid. I still think it's the same mechanisms that work in this, but instead of, taking the image and converting it, it's converting the file to your Polaroid. So this is what I use to print out all the photos from my iPod Touch. Do you know what? I'll actually link this stuff down below if you want to go and check it out. This restaurant. So this restaurant we went to was called Au Noir or something. Basically, it's the blind restaurant. Like, you go in there and the whole experience takes place in the dark, and you have to kind of acclimate. Like, all the waiters take you to your table. You have to eat your dinner without, you can't see anything. If you need to go somewhere, you have to be ushered out with one of the servers. It was so freaky because you think you're going to acclimate to it, but you really don't. And then when you're trying to eat dinner, you can't really figure out where you're cutting or what you're cutting into. So people just kind of start using their hands. It's like a whole mess. It was actually really fun. I think in hindsight, when I was in it, I was having multiple panic attacks, but it's a really amazing experience. So if you're ever in Toronto, check out Noir or Au Noir. It's an experience. This is when we went to Orlando just before we joined the ship, and Steve and Danielle had surprised me at like just standing out the front of the castle. I was so nervous. I was like, oh no, please don't propose. I was like, this is way too dramatic. I'm not saying yes. But yeah, it was really fun. We went to Epcot and Magic Kingdom. We just had like a couple of days where we still had some training before we joined the ship. So I guess he thought that would be a good time to come out and surprise. He didn't propose there. That happened afterwards. It's like a year later. This is once I'd actually joined the ship and we were doing all our training, and I had this moment in a show where I had to jump off the ship's smokestack and kind of rappel down to the deck for a big pirate party. And the practice, like the day that we had practiced it, it was a lot of fun, but you had to walk up the stairs to get back up there every time, and there was a ladder to climb up there as well. So I figured out that by the end of the rehearsal I'd walked 105 flights of stairs, and I was exhausted. Super scary, actually. I kind of loved it in the end. I'm absolutely no stunt person by any means, but they were really good at training us, and I had a really great time doing that in the end. These are just so much fun to look back at. This seems like a lifetime ago, but just looking at the photos, I have such vivid memories of those experiences. This is where I started to add in like little pictures of like little drawings. Nothing fancy, but I guess I just started wanting to draw in here. So that was that book. Then we moved on to this one, start chapter 2. Oh yeah, this is where I started to like get a little crafty with it. Maybe it was because of the craft paper. I felt like I could kind of go nuts on it. Also, this was ring bound, so the pages actually came out was a lot easier to work on. And here's where I would start to try and get like a little more creative with how I put the photos in. So I made this martini glass kind of like holder for the night we went out to the bar. I would put little Arial stickers and some glitter glue. Love my glitter glue. Still love it. And some little coloring book pages that I'd colored. I would just cut them out as ephemera and kind of decorate my pages. I love those. Oh, where did I get stamps from? I must have had stamps in an ink pad at some point. Or maybe Jen had it. I think Jen had it. Apparently I cut out the Bud Light Lime box and used that as my page. That's fun for me. Oh yeah, I mean, I really started to get creative with it. Well, these crystals are fun. Where did they come from? We had an emoji party, and so I'd made this hat, kind of put like a layer around this hat full of all these emojis that I'd drawn, and after the party I didn't want to get rid of it, so I actually just cut all the emojis off and put them into my page. And that's what I mean about like kind of starting to really put more than just a photo in there, but like actually parts of the day, if I could physically get some way to put them in there, like the Bud Light Lime box. My sister used to send me pictures of my nephew as he was growing up, so I'd always print them out and put them all over my cabin. Oh, here I actually drew my cabin. That's fun. I guess I did have urban sketching practice. I even drew my little book. I drew the book in the book. It's very meta. Well, this is when my mum and Dave came to visit. We went to this restaurant called Animator's Palette, and you would draw on your placemat, and then it would be transferred onto the screen. Like you would give, I think you would give them the placemat, they would go and scan it or something, and it would suddenly pop up on all the TV screens around you, and it would be animated. Like you would draw the head in this space, the arms in this space. So we were laughing so hard trying to catch our animations going around, and then they give you this certificate at the end, and I just peeled the sticker off. So it's official. I'm an official Disney animator. It says it right here. This is my certificate. Oh, here's the animation. Like this is the one that I drew on my placemat, so I must have cut it up and put it here. So fun. I don't know if you can see this, but we had this superhero and villains party, and I had face painted my whole face to look like Venom. Now, I'm not into comic books or anything, and I used this Google reference image for this. Like, I didn't even come up with it, but I am so proud of this, even though I hate the way that it looks. Like, it's a little too much for me. I'm so glad that I achieved it. I literally put it together in like 40 minutes, and was seriously considering a career in face painting after that. It probably looks better just because it's on a Polaroid, but I'm very proud of this moment. I'll just bring it closer so you can see it. Oh, here's where I had my accident. This was the day we'd like gone to the beach and just had a really nice day. I was so upset about the whole thing. I just tried to like combine it really quickly so I didn't have to really relive it that much. And then I got released from the hospital and had to go home. This is as I was like going home, and this is when I got home and what my foot looked like. So I had to put a little like tab over it because it's really, really graphic. So I'm not going to show it to you because I really don't want anyone to get squeamish, but it's a lot. And then I entered this new life with my nephew. He was growing up really quickly, and then I just got to chill out with him for months and months and months. I would just spend time with my family. I had lots of checkups. I was documenting how it wasn't easy to have a shower. My mum put a chair in there and I couldn't get my foot wet, and it was a mess. I mean, as sad as all of this was, it was so nice to be able to get time with my family like that. I don't think we get that as we get older, and you know, even though I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, I think there was so many silver linings to pull from that experience that it's really hard to look back at it and say I wish it didn't happen. There are certainly days where I feel like that, but for the most part, I had such a joy about being with my family. This is another progress shot of my foot, so I'm not going to show that either. I put another cover over it. I don't even like looking at it. And that's where this one kind of ends out, about September, with my moon boot on. It then transitioned into a smaller notebook, so then I had a lot less room to work with, which I think kind of switched it up again. Oh, do you know what? This was when I was sitting at this table. This is when I said I was going to start JLB Creative. It was literally this day. I remember I brought everything up to the table and kind of sat there and thought, I reckon I could make a business. I was there with my sister and my nephew. And this is when I started kind of working on it and making some things and set up a table downstairs. Mum had set that up for me. So it was around September 2015. This is all my mum's old scrapbooking stuff. I must have found it. This is a lot to put in there. Like, there's a full-on pin across that. She had a lot of scrapbooking stuff. This is when I was drawing these little drawings when I thought I was going to do Inktober back in 2015. That didn't last long at all, but I really did want to give it a go. I gave it a go for a couple of times, but I just never finished it until 2017 was the first time I finished it. But these were like, they were inspired by tea and coffee, these little drawings. So I put a little coffee cup here and had it coming out, emerging out of the coffee cup. Oh my goodness. My nephew fell asleep with a carrot in his hand one day. I have no idea why he even had the carrot. Oh, you know what? This one is like, this is a progress shot of my foot, but it's really not that bad. So I'm just going to give you a warning. If you don't want to see any kind of like scar or anything, then please just close your eyes until I say it's over. But if you want to see it, this is the Frankenfoot. See, it's not that bad. It's mostly healed by that point. It's finished. Sorry, I should have said it was finished. Oh, this is when I took my first steps again after so long. I felt like a pig. I couldn't walk very well, but I was really excited to be walking again, so documented that. Oh, look at the little Cindy Lou Who. My best friend and I are obsessed with the Grinch. I know I've said that before, but I made her this shadow box for Christmas where it was a scene of Whoville, and this was my practice run for Cindy Lou. It's kind of a little paper stacking here. I think I was trying to use my brother's scan and cut to try and figure it all out. I think in the end it would have just worked if I had just cut it out. Oh yeah, I was big into the scan and cut at this point. And then the last book is the same little size. I don't know why I tried to go with the little one again. I thought maybe because it was the end of the year, I wouldn't have much left. Ooh, stamps. I made my mum a big flower headpiece for the Melbourne Cup, and she won. She won Best Dressed. It was all made out of paper, the butterflies and the paper flowers. It was super heavy. I'm surprised she even could wear it. Oh, and then Steve came to visit in November. We had a really nice trip going to discover Australia. Oh, wow. Look at that glitter glue. That's intense. What was that? Oh, we went on this treetops adventure where you kind of go ziplining through all these trees. It's like a roller coaster in the trees just by my house. And I wrote poison tree sap because I don't know if I've told this story before, but the lady who was taking us up the mountain specifically said, don't touch anything. Like, don't touch the plants. Don't try to, go into the little jungle areas. But my mum, thinking that she's my gran, who was really good with all that stuff, decided that as we got to the top, she would pull off some tree sap because my gran used to do that, and she would say it was tree lollies. Now, my mum literally went around to everyone and said, oh, does anyone want any tree lollies? And I'm thinking, no, like, I don't trust that you know what that is. Like, I know Gran would have known what that was, but you don't. And my mum was convinced that it was fine. She had started eating it, and then everyone had said no, thank goodness, because when she started eating it, her tongue started swelling and going numb, and she was eating this poison tree sap from this tree. Thank goodness there was a water tanker that was driving up that mountain at the same time, and he let her have some of the water out of the back of the truck to try and like flush it out of her mouth. And we ended up putting her on the Flying Fox like zip line thing first, and she was trying to scream as she went down, but I didn't know if she was screaming because she was gonna die or if she was just having fun. It was so funny. Everyone else up there was like, thank goodness we didn't take tree lollies from that crazy woman. I mean, that's just literally one of a million stories that crack me up about my mother. So that's why we wrote Poison Tree Sap. The day was equal parts exciting and frightening. Oh, here's where we made our gingerbread house. So I tried to put it in a gingerbread house. That looks a mess, but I'm so happy about my effort. I hope this is making you feel better about some of your old journals. I did not have it together, let me just tell you that much, but I had such a great time, and it's even such a great time flicking through it. Look, I really tried hard to make these stickers work, and whatever white paint I thought looked like snow. This was also the first day I started walking without the boot. I mean, walking is a relative term. I really couldn't walk. I could kind of just put pressure on it and then hop to the next foot, but still, progress. Oh, this is when I made my Wally paper cuts. I still have that in a frame in my house. This is one of my favorites. I love that. At this point, I was doing commissions, like for engagements. This was like literally the start of my JLB creative, like even selling things at all, like little prints that I was making and paper cuts. Like I was doing paper stacking kind of shadow boxes. This one I made for a couple for their engagement present. They had their little dogs in there, little skyline background. I really like that. I should do more paper stacking. My goodness, these was literally, I did sell some of these prints. It's so embarrassing to look back on now, but like this was where it all started. I'd have little art time in my bedroom at a tiny little table with really old supplies. I would do this was literally done on sketch paper, and I would just scan it and make little prints. I even sent some out. Like, it's so crazy to think that that's where all of this started. Love her. Gorgina. Here's Lige Lou. He'd started walking at this point, I think. Ran straight to the mirror and gave himself a kiss. I wonder where he gets that from. Oh look, I was attempting sculpture. Clay sculpture. I did a couple of things I liked. Well, not really. I made a Patsy Stone pin that I enjoyed. Oh, and midway through December, that's when I had my final surgery for my foot, and I could start healing properly after that. I was getting all the screws and hardware taken out of it. Goodness, what an adventure. All right, enamel dots. Oh, look, this is where the bauble box I made for Steve in 2017, this is where that idea came from when I was making these for family friends and kind of painting on these little wooden discs that my stepdad had cut up from a tree in the backyard. And like literally the whole thing was handmade. And it was mostly because I wanted to get rid of all these ribbons that I had. There was no specific reason for this project other than I wanted to get rid of all these ribbons and use all these little stickers up. So they all ended up in these shadow box ornaments, which I think they're just really fun. I love those. Oh, this is us making pavlova at Christmas. My auntie smushed it all over my face. And Steve opening his presents on FaceTime. Oh, and then Lige Lou's first birthday. That's it. That's the whole year documented in Polaroids. I hope that was fun for you to look through. I had a great time going down memory lane. All of that to say, I am super, super excited to crack on into 2019 with the 5-year journal. I know it's not going to be the same thing as like these photos, but hopefully I can do just as good a job at sparking my memories so that years to come I can look back at this and have the same kind of feeling that I did when I look at these. I mean, this was 2015, so this is, 3 years ago. 3 years from now will be 2021, and who knows what I'll be looking back at, but I'm really excited to document it nonetheless. The thing that sold me on this more than anything was when the video I watched on YouTube said, think about everything that's happened in the last 5 years. And as I thought about it, I thought there is so much that's happened to me and my family in the last 5 years. I mean, we've had new family members be born, loved family members pass away, I've had career change, I've lived in a different country now, I got married, like so much happened, and it was almost traumatic to think that I hadn't documented it all. So that I could just dive back into those memories. I think, it's so great to have a memory, but it's even better to have a memento of it. It's you want to kind of turn those memories into something more tangible, just so that years down the line you can remember things that you might have just forgotten, or maybe never picked back up again without that little jog of memory. So I'm really excited. I think got way too emotional looking at all that stuff. I'm gonna have to go and watch Kath and Kim or something just to lighten my mood, but I hope you had fun kind of traveling through history with me. Let me know if there's any kind of documenting that you do, or if you are using one of the 5-year Hobonichis, because I'd love to see it. I'd love to see people on Instagram using this. I want to see how people are going through it and how they're having a good time doing it. Or if you do something similar with photos or any kind of just documenting daily stuff, please let me know. Tag me, pop it in a comment below, and I would love to check it out. Join me in 5 years for when we flip this boy. Until then, I'm probably just going to go put stickers on the box, because I'm still traumatized that I ruined the little yellow box. But that's neither here nor there. Hope you had a great time watching the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, a like, whatever you want to do. Give it a comment, give it a dislike. The world is your oyster. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just have fun doing it. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.